People connecting, stories connecting, through history. Your story, connected to their stories.
There was a deserter who was a white soldier, and he just didn't want to fight in the war, and he came into the black section of town, and they hid him.
Lincoln wrote my grandfather and told him that he wished to pay him in gold. My grandfather's answer was that as a patriot, he could not take money from the treasury during the war.
My father, one of the things he left me after he passed away is I have an old pistol that has cavalry on it. And
my great-grandfather was a physician. He was a captain in the...
People like stories. They like narratives. They like identifying with people.
The Civil War. The stories captivate us, and if we listen carefully, they draw us together. More than that, they tell of life in the great crucible of American history. Stories that shaped our state and our nation.
It is a story that resonates, I think, across history from the 1800s to today.
And I am concerned, too, to make sure that the legacy of the Civil War and its meaning today are connected, because a lot of the things we have today we would not have if it had not been for a Civil War. And these are liberties not shared only by African Americans, but by all Americans.
Every North Carolinian shares a connection with the legacy of the Civil War. The Old North State suffered heavy losses in battle. It struggled throughout the war with deep divisions and deeper questions.
I have always viewed North Carolina and the war as a kind of the nation in microcosm, which was divided over the war.
the average person, when they think about the Civil War, they link it to many other events that occurred post-Civil War up to today. So through Reconstruction, Jim Crow, the Civil Rights Movement, etc., North Carolina has sort of got lost in this discussion, because one of the most significant challenges is how do you take multiple perspectives to tell a story that honors the state of North Carolina, but really unfolds a picture of truth.
So I think it's very important that we have a North Carolina Civil War History Center that can tell all aspects of the story, not just about the battles, but the things that led up to the war and obviously the things that happened after the Civil War.
The new North Carolina Civil War History Center is the first such center in the nation to focus on the impact of the war and its aftermath on a single state, not just from a military point of view, but more important, on the lives of its people, bringing a rarely heard perspective to the war.
It's not going to be the story of movements or battles. It's going to be the stories of people and what happened to them. And out of those stories, I think we will learn a lot about ourselves.
The continuity that it will bring pre-Civil War and post-Civil War is a critical part of this education. So a lot of it will be about the Civil War, but I think what will separate this museum is that it will inspire people to want to study more, do more research, find their own personal family linkages to this history and its continuity.
The North Carolina Civil War History Center is a major new addition to the state's system of history museums. The facility is to be constructed on the grounds of the Confederate Arsenal in Fayetteville, one of North Carolina's most significant Civil War sites. The fall of Fort Fisher in January 1865 opened the way for General William T. Sherman to launch his final march through North Carolina, aimed at ending the war. Sherman resolved to destroy the Fayetteville Arsenal, one of the Confederates' largest remaining weapons and munitions factories.
Most of the weaponry in the South had to be imported from Europe, but at Fayetteville they could make weapons, and this made it a strategic objective as far as Sherman was concerned.
And obviously with the arsenal being right there at the Museum of the Cape Fear, it makes all the sense in the world that that museum be the one that tells the story of North Carolina in the Civil War and Reconstruction afterwards. We also have what we call the Poe House, which is a Victorian home built in the late 1890s. And we want to make sure that the museum continues to focus on covering the region's history as well.
The plans for the expansive new campus include a 60,000 square foot history center complex, incorporating permanent exhibits that interpret antebellum history and the war in North Carolina, leading up to the last weeks of the conflict. At this point, an immersive 3D theater in the round experience portrays Sherman's final march, the arsenal's destruction, and Johnston's surrender at Bennett Place. The post-war period includes an extensive look at the Reconstruction era and how the war has shaped the social and economic fabric of modern North Carolina. Additional galleries will hold regional history and traveling exhibits. On completion, the History Center and Arsenal Park are projected to welcome upward of 105,000 visitors a year, bringing more than 200 new permanent jobs and nearly $18 million in new annual spending to the city, county, and state.
It's a double opportunity. One is to capitalize on this rare site that we have. This site played a crucial role in the war. Second of all is to come up with a brand new idea of the Civil War. I mean, we would love to say we're going to double the amount of people that visit our community.
However, beyond its physical facilities, the History Center encompasses a much larger scope. Harnessing state-of-the-art technology, the center will bring the North Carolina Civil War experience to homes and classrooms across the state.
Well, as you look at the models of the museums that are successful nowadays, you can't just have a museum with artifacts. You've got to have technology.
The technology makes it possible to expand out beyond your walls of your museum or your center. You don't have to come to the story can come to you.
Using augmented technology and outreach, the center's History Foundry will provide a platform to explore and share new concepts. The center will develop educational materials for all levels, enabling students throughout North Carolina and the world to participate in real-time interactive history right in their classrooms. More than a museum, the center is designed to be truly a 21st century history experience.
I think that the technology not only reaching outside the museum but also inside the museum will become far more important. The ability for you to come into an exhibit like this, for instance, with your iPhone and your iPad and go into much more detail.
The creation of the North Carolina Civil War History Center requires a total capital investment of $65 million. That sum will be raised from both private and public sources in a phased approach over several years, so every North Carolinian has the opportunity, through the stories of the past, to invest in and enrich the future.
I mean, once we build this, it'll be maintained by the state and they'll help us to develop it.
It puts us on the map. This is going to be the first history center of its kind in the United States.
We hope that it'll be a model for the nation so that they can see what the Civil War was really all about and how it affected the lives of people and the telling effect today, not just in North Carolina, but in America.
The North Carolina Civil War History Center. Even today, the stories it holds are vital and vibrant and have deep meaning for everyone who calls this state home. But they can only be told with your support. Join with us and find your own connection with the stories of this historic era through this unique center to discover its meaning for today and for generations to come.
As long as we're focusing on the truth and the actual history, it's going to give a whole new perspective to the Civil War.
It seems to me that by looking at those differences and finding the common ground, that's a history center worth putting together.
It's that we will contribute to the collective identity of North Carolina in a way we haven't done before. Think how valuable and important and beautiful this will be when we can make this work.